I've tried to find the most unfortunate Part 2 topic from recent speaking exams, and on our Telegram, you voted for this one. Today, I'll use it to show you how to give a great answer step by step, even if the topic seems challenging. I've also asked the former examiner on our team to give feedback and his score so we could learn what matters most. But before we go to the answer, there's something you need to know about the topic. Let's read it first. Describe an occasion when you complained about something and achieved a good result. You should say what your complaint was, who you complained to, what the result was, and explain how you felt about the result. The format never changes, but there is one thing about it that can help you increase your score. We have 4 points to talk about: what, who, another what, and explain how. The first 2 points are describing something: what the situation was, who you dealt with. These require simpler language. Then you go on to explaining what the result was, and most importantly, how you felt. When you're explaining, you're more likely to use more complex vocabulary and grammar, which is great for your score. A question I often get asked is, do I have to follow the bullet points? No. It's not necessary to follow these bullet points in strict order or talk about each of them. But if you have a topic you're not so happy with, maybe because you can't think of a lot to say, then the easiest way may be to follow the bullet points. Unlike an IELTS writing where you absolutely must cover each point, speaking points are there to guide you. But you do need to read the topic carefully and find a good story to tell. What is a good IELTS story? Well, that's the one you can comfortably tell in English. For example, maybe you complained about a faulty car transmission. Do you have the vocab to describe it? Would it be easier to talk about, say, a restaurant? I'm sure we all can imagine how a restaurant can screw up a meal. And that's the story I'm going with. It doesn't have to be a real story, you can be inventive. As long as you have a story in your mind, for example, it happened to someone you know, and you're not just inventing as you speak, it's fine. Having a story in mind can help you with the first criterion, fluency. To get a band 7 or higher, you need to be able to keep going and readily produce long turns or long answers without noticeable effort. You may be wondering, is it okay to pause when speaking? It's natural to give yourself time to think occasionally, but we don't want to pause too often or for too long. Here, my students sometimes make this objection. But in real life, and I know, but IELTS is a test. It's not real life. And our task is to show the examiner that we can speak fluently, as far as possible correctly, using a wide range of appropriate vocabulary. And that's why planning, knowing where you're going, is so important. In the 60 seconds you have to prepare, try to find a good story, and then you may find it helpful to jot down a few keywords to remember what to cover. For example, my plan would look like this: what, who, result, how you feel. When preparing at home, you should definitely time your part 2 talk to keep it real. 1 minute to prepare, 2 minutes to speak. Oh yes, and despite the instructions, try to talk for 2 minutes or closer to 2 minutes, not just 1 minute. This will allow you to show more vocabulary, grammar, and hopefully more fluency. Now, let's listen to the talk step by step and learn how to extend your answer and get a higher score for your fluency. Well, I'm not a complaining type, but I'm going to talk about something that happened not long ago. That's a good opener. A short comment about the topic. A lot of test takers start off by paraphrasing the task. Here it would be something like, "You've asked me to describe a time when I made a complaint, and it resulted in a positive outcome." Well, I'm going to talk about something that happened not long ago. There is nothing wrong with that, although the examiner may hear a lot of them. This opening sentence leads us into the story. The first bullet point is the complaint, but I'm going to continue differently. Listen to it. This is a great way to extend your talk. At work, I was put in charge of organizing an event for our 20th anniversary. So I chose this brand new restaurant that caters to large numbers, as there were around 100 of us in total. Instead of addressing the first bullet point straight on, I'm giving my story some background, the context, if you like. Then I go on to describe the product, the offer from the restaurant. We need this to make our complaint part work better. And this is also an easy way to extend your answer. So, the product. The deal they offered looked great. A set menu with choices for the main course and dessert, as well as special meals for vegetarians. All the beverages, soft drinks, mineral water, beer, and wine were also included. Short and concise. No need for a lot of detail because it's the reason for the complaint that's more interesting. Here it is. The evening, however, turned out to be a major letdown. Here, the mood changes from the great offer to reality. And I'm using a strong linker, however, to indicate that shift, so the examiner knows what's coming next. The service was slow, and the vegetarian option was, for whatever reason, unavailable. And when the food finally arrived, it was either cold or undercooked. On top of that, all the drinks were served warm. And when we asked for rice, we were told there wasn't enough for everyone. This part lists the reasons why I complained. But I'm not using firstly, secondly, thirdly, which would be too formal and unnatural. Instead, I just used and on top of that. On to the next bullet point. I spoke to the general manager and she made the excuse that they were understaffed in the kitchen and most of the waiters were temporary and inexperienced. Well, as I said, I'm not the type to make a fuss, but I demanded that the restaurant should offer us some money back, a repayment, no, a partial refund. Your task to talk should be like a mini story. Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Is it a happy ending? The task mentions a good result. I think it was when I threatened to post a negative review online that she finally agreed to offer a generous discount. This bullet point is very short, much shorter than the first two. And that's fine because the key part is coming next. A part you should never skip in your talk. Let's listen to it first and then I explain why. I'm still upset about the event, even though we ended up paying very little. Friends at work told me I wasn't to blame, but I can't shake the feeling that if I'd been more careful choosing the venue, the celebration would have turned out differently. When we're explaining our feelings, we naturally use more complex ideas, grammar, and vocabulary, which is great. And there is a benign piece of grammar in this paragraph. But let's look at the feedback and scores from a former examiner in order. By the way, if you have access to the IELTS speaking library, we've just added the full sample answer to your ebook. And if you don't have it, this is our collection of sample answers and vocabulary for over 40 topics from RIU exams, which we update regularly. I'll link it below. Okay, what does our examiner think? Every examiner pays attention to 4 aspects, each of which is graded with 9 being the maximum: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. What score does this answer deserve? If we look at fluency and coherence, for a band 7 or a higher score, we need to talk without noticeable effort. Then there should be a logical sequence from providing the context to the complaint, its resolution, and finally the comment on feelings. The connections between its parts should be clear. They are clear. And we have a good range of connectives in the answer, so and as to relate to causes and consequences, however and but to signal contrast. On top of that, to add new information, finally and still to refer to sequence and time. This is referred to as topic development is coherent in Band 8. And one more thing on the subject of fluency. The examiner gives high grades to those who speak without much hesitation. It's normal for anyone to pause occasionally to maybe think of what you're gonna say next, but we don't want that to happen too often. But notice the hesitation, this mental search for a word that happened near the end. I demanded that the restaurant should offer us some money back, a repayment, a partial refund. This is nothing to worry about. In fact, self-correction, here a word, though it could be grammar or pronunciation, is a positive sign that we're learning because we're aware of our mistakes and we can correct them. But of course, you don't want that to happen often and to correct yourself so much that you forget what you wanted to say. This answer would get a band 8 or 9 for fluency and coherence. What about the other 3 categories? Lexical resource is our vocabulary. It should show variety, including some less common items, some idiomatic expressions, as well as an awareness of collocation. Not to mention our ability to paraphrase. Let me show you some good examples of these features. Cater to, meaning to professionally provide food and drink. A set menu. This is the list of meal choices on offer. Make a fuss, in I'm not the type to make a fuss, meaning I don't like to get angry and complain. This is a nice idiomatic paraphrase of how the talk begins. I'm not the complaining type. We also have a major letdown or a big disappointment. And I can't shake the feeling, meaning I'm still feeling it and I can't stop. We could also mention single word items. Beverages for drinks, understaffed, meaning lacking workers. You see, nothing extraordinary, just some sensible vocabulary for the topic. This would get a band 8. Starting from a band 7, our grammar will be largely error-free and have a good mix of simple and complex structures. Some students think that they need very complex sentences or formal sentences, but that's not true. In our talk, the sentences were pretty simple at the beginning and became more complex as the talk developed. And this is normal because the talk moved from simply describing the situation to describing feelings. And we have a number of interesting elements throughout the talk. For example, the passive voice. I was put in charge. The beverages were included. We also have what's called a cleft sentence. It was when I threatened to post a negative review online that she agreed to offer a discount. A cleft sentence emphasizes a particular part of a sentence. In our case, the emphasis is on the action of threatening to post a review. Also, have you noticed a highly complex structure at the very end? If I had been more careful choosing the venue, the celebration would have turned out differently. This type of sentence is called a third conditional sentence. I'm discussing a hypothetical situation in the past if I had been more careful, but I wasn't. And their imagined results. The celebration would have turned out differently. So all this is unreal. The examiner will definitely notice if you pull it off or if you get it wrong. All in all, the grammar was good enough for a band 8. For a perfect 9, the vocabulary and grammar could have been a bit more complex, but I wanted to show you an answer that would be easy to understand. And the last criterion is pronunciation. We all speak with an accent, that's fine. We're not trying to sound exactly like native speakers. What's important is that we can be easily understood. Our pronunciation of individual words is clear and intelligible. A word of advice: don't try to use words that you're unsure of when it comes to how to pronounce them. If you look through the 2-minute talk, there weren't any especially difficult words. Another aspect is rhythm, stress, and intonation. A feature of English is how we express meaning through emphasizing certain words or parts of words. Take this sentence, for example. Which words would you emphasize? Most native speakers would probably say it like this. And when the food finally arrived, it was either cold or undercooked. Emphasize the most important words and don't emphasize supporting words, such as prepositions, articles, and auxiliary verbs, like do, it, is, will. This answer would get a band 9 for pronunciation, although I do have an accent. So overall, this answer would get between a band 8 and 8.5. But part 2 is not assessed alone. It's part 3 of the test that will determine the final score. And that's where the examiner will push you to your limit. And if you want to get it right, learn these techniques to give extended, high-scoring answers that will impress your examiner. And don't forget to check out our IELTS speaking library linked below. Thank you so much for watching me today. Good luck with your preparation and your exam. Bye!